Hello and welcome back to the new Rallycross remake. A little bit of a different video today. I forgot to turn on my mic for the whole session. Disaster. Instead, I've added this voiceover to give some context. The last video I didn't go into a great job with the movement of the car, so this video fixes all that. The first step is to move the player's shape, that's the car, to a child object that is offset from the main one, rather than using some weird offset math in the code. That means I've had to sort of redo some of the references, but it doesn't take too long to do that. The next step was block collision detection. I wasn't happy with how I left it last time, and the car was stopping way too short of the blocks and reversing. I dumped three coordinate systems, one for sprites, one for blocks, and one for world, and unified them all together. Well, sort of. I kept them in the helper functions, but I tidied up the names to make it obvious what they were doing. So for example, going from the sprite coordinates to the world coordinates, going from sprite to block, all that kind of stuff. Naming is actually important. I then did this genius plan to test the next sprite cell rather than the one I was currently on. The get test positions function is the first kick of the can of this idea, and you can see me developing it here. It changes quite a bit throughout the development, but fundamentally it's the exact same code. Hopefully this diagram helps. It gets the three most adjacent blocks to the current sprite block in the direction of travel. If there is a tile in one of those blocks, the player can't move in that direction. That's the general idea anyway. This is where it all goes south. I will spare you the details because, quite frankly, they're a bit boring. If you want to see the whole unedited video, I can post it, but yeah, leave me a comment. There's no sound in it though, so I might have to like overdub music or something. Okay, there were a couple of things wrong. The first thing that I didn't realize this was what was actually one of my biggest problems was, well, I mean, I eventually figured it out obviously, but because it's working now, the vertical placement of the sprite coordinates was 8 pixels out from the map blocks. This took me way too long. I ended up having a debug, so I had like a red box and a green box, and it wasn't until I saw the two weren't aligned to the 24 by 24 character block that I was using for the sprites. It wasn't until I saw that I realized what was actually happening, and that's what was causing a problem with the collision detection, because essentially it was, because it was 8 pixels out, it wasn't detecting the correct position in the block system. So I ended up having to add a fudge factor, and the fudge factor was basically to add 8 pixels to the calculated sprite to block calculation that we did earlier on. That just pulls up the block coordinates to the correct position, and this made the Y values work just fine. I then spent another half an hour at least figuring out why the X coordinates were wrong. I can't remember the exact reason. It was because I was like, oh great, it's working now. But essentially it's my plus and minus calculations from the little diagram was off, and once that was sorted, the car stayed on the road. The last thing to do was to keep the car moving once it hit a wall. This is going to come in handy when we implement an enemy car. So what I mean by that is that when the car hits a wall, it then decides what the best direction is to go in if the player is not touching a key. So what I did was I created an array with the possible directions, up, down, left and right, and used that to test each direction. If the direction is open, the code chooses that direction. It's simple, but it works. And with that, it's all working. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope we are enjoying this video series. Sorry about the loss of audio on this one, but we're back on track now. So yeah, if you want the full source code for this, the link is in the show notes below. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye bye now.